At my 25th high school reunion, they asked the veterans to stand, and I was surprised to see only a handful of us on our feet. The vast majority of my classmates had managed to avoid service, most likely because even though the draft was still in effect, a lottery had been put in place and only the lucky few were called to serve. I delayed my own service for 5 years by going to college, and when I was finally drafted, I wound up as a Korean linguist, so I missed the action in Vietnam. In fact, my graduating class lost only one young man to that conflict. Strange, because when we were younger, all my friends and I expected to serve. World War II was still fresh in the common mind, and every adult had participated on some level, either on the battlefield or here at home. In our playtime battles, the enemy was always either German or Japanese. That's not surprising either, because the armies of those two nations were our father's opponents, and we wanted nothing more than to emulate our fathers. For some reason, the Italians got off scot-free, even though they were part of the Axis. You would think we would have eventually segued into the North Koreans or the Russians, but it never happened, at least not to me. This fascination with all things military infected our toys as well. I had more war toys than anything else, though there was a lot of cowboy stuff too. I was too young to appreciate the irony of mowing down the enemy with a plastic machine gun clearly stamped "Made in Japan." What got me thinking about these things was a memory that popped into my head this morning about Green Army men. My brother Bill and I had about 1 million of them over the years of our childhood, and just when we were outgrowing them, my brother Danny came along and we started all over again. They were the bane of my mother's existence, constantly littering the floors over a 20-year period. They were dangerous, too, because you ran the risk of having a handful of them flung into your darkened bedroom in the middle of the night, accompanied by a bellow of rage from my father, who stepped on them with his bare feet on his way to the bathroom. He almost always did. I think Legos have probably taken over this father-son bonding experience. Green Army men were small plastic replicas of soldiers in fixed positions, standing, kneeling, and lying down. There was an officer in each bag with a .45 caliber handgun, but most were armed with rifles. There was one with a bazooka and one with a much rarer and therefore coveted BAR, which stands for Browning Automatic Rifle. There was also one who was forever frozen in the act of throwing a hand grenade. The Green Army men were indestructible. Believe me, I know. I tried everything I could think of to destroy them without success. I tried melting them with a magnifying glass. The plastic ran a little, but it would have taken too many hours to reduce one of them to a puddle to make that method practical. Twice a year, on the 4th of July and at Christmas, we got firecrackers and other explosive devices. All were tried out on the green soldiers, but most times they weren't even scratched. I set them up in elaborate panoramas and shot them with my BB gun to no avail. When I ran out of BBs, I just threw rocks at them. Nothing fazed them. They mocked me. "We are Legion," they proclaimed. "We will always be with you." And they probably are. I'm not around small children enough to know. I can't really say. I think they diminished in number because their attitude toward war has changed. That may be because although the modern conflicts are still with us, they no longer engage the entire country, and only a relatively small percentage of the population is directly affected, even though we have troops deployed on every continent except Antarctica. The impulse for war will probably always be with us too. It has been ever since Cain decided to thin the gene pool. And whether you see that story as holy writ or metaphor, you have to admit it says something about the human condition, as mythology always does, far better than a scientific treatise ever could. One thing I can guarantee, if we do manage to destroy ourselves, when the aliens come and try to sort out what happened to us, they'll find Green Army men in great profusion in attics and basements of our moldering dwellings and in landfills everywhere. And they'll probably be glad they missed us.